Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to my dear students. Uh, Today we'll be discussing the difference between concept and construct and how do the whole research process starts in our mind. I'm Dr. Ayaz Muhammad Khan, Director, Division of Education, University of Education, Lahore. So here is the agenda for this lecture. We'll first of all see what do we mean by research, some characteristics of research, then method of knowledge generation, what do we mean by sensation, perception and conception, and what is this hypothetico-deductive approach, and actually the sensation, perception and conception would lead you to some directly and indirectly observable concepts, and it will also help you to understand which indirectly observable concept we social scientists are interested in. Then we would lead from construct variable to operational definition of those constructs and ultimately to theory. Dear students, in a derivative sense, the word research means explore. But if you just break it down into re and search, then it literally means to explore something or phenomena thoroughly and completely. Some of the people are of the opinion that research is actually derived from two words, re and search, which means doing something again and again. But if someone at your home does a thing again and again, do you call him a researcher or rather an idiot? So this word re actually means thoroughly or completely, and its origin is just like the word re in the refrigerator, and which means that thoroughly or completely around the question. So the end would be that research means to explore something thoroughly or completely. We would also see. Now let's talk about the characteristics of research. Usually, we have five major characteristics of research. The very first one is that it must always be empirical. I mean, you got to get evidence. Unless you get evidence that can empirically verify what you have done, we do not believe in what you say. The second one is systematic, as the research is originated from scientific method. So one of the characteristic of scientific method is that it is systematic, it follows systematic, then valid and reliable. And when we apply it in our social sciences, we use another one which is called as parsimonious. Why do we call it parsimonious? Because we never go for the whole population for gathering data. We get sample out of it which is representative. So I mean, if you are supposed to get data from all the population, it would be pretty much costly thing. Last time, 2 or 3 years ago, when census was done in Pakistan, it costed us 22 billion rupees. So when you go to every member of the uh, population, it costs you a lot. But in research in social sciences, the concept of parsimony is very important, because you go and get a representative sample, and then you try to generalize those results over to the whole population. But besides that, you have many more characteristics as well. It should be purposiveness, rigorous standards should be maintained, which I have already told you that it must be systematic but valid and reliable as well. Then or quantitative studies, they are totally based on objective knowledge, objectivity, replicability. I mean, if you replicate that study, it must be coming with the same results to a very large extent, and ultimately it should lead to some establishment of a theory, which ultimately goes for validation purpose in quantitative research. So what is the role of this research? As actually it is a continuous refinement and development. So there are two ways through which we conduct research. One is theorizing to practice, meaning thereby there is already well established theory. What you do, you go for hypothetical deductive reasoning, meaning thereby you deduce that whatever is happening in other part of the world, if I do conduct the research, my results would be the same as the main theory. So the purpose would be to strengthen the theory. So here what you do, you deduce your theory and inductively apply it on your situation. But on the other hand, in qualitative studies, you actually induce, or you actually go for inductive. I mean, you see the practice, what is going on, and then develop a theory out of it. In quantitative mode, the most important thing is actually the operationalization. Through operationalization, you go for conceptual development. Okay, students, let's see how do we generate knowledge, or how do we construct our representation of the external world. Whenever you see something from your eyes, touch something from your hand, taste something through your bird, as a matter of fact, all these things are called as sensation. But you know, you seeing something you don't see, because unless your mind reads it, and when our mind reads it, uh, seeing, tasting, touching, hearing, or smelling something. These are the five senses through which you are exposed to the outer world. And when you look, when you smell, when you taste, as a matter of fact, all those things are called as sensation. And when these things are identified or coded by your brain, it is called as perception. As the definition says, when we select, organize, and interpret our sensation, the process is called as perception. जब हमारा दिमाग उसको पढ़ लेता है चीज़ों को, हम आँखों से देखते हैं, लेकिन on the retina of our eyeball things are averted, but it is the brain that see the thing not in averted form but in actual form. So brain actually perceives. Once we have got our perception, the next stage, that our mind start thinking, what is this all about? This is called as conception. So all representation that we perceive in head are actually concepts, and from those concepts you start looking at the different properties of the things you are watching, tasting, smelling, or touching. From all those properties that you see, feel, smell, taste, or touch, or emotionally or bodily, it leads to your concept build. So actually concept correspond to the properties of the things that we see through our five senses. So we can say sensation is detecting physical energy from the environment and encoding it to as neutral signals. Uh, Perception is the way you notice or understand something through your senses. Uh, Perception, as I had told you, selecting, organizing, and interpreting our sensation as meaningful objectives and events in our mind, and then this thing leads to ultimately uh, conception. And I have already told you that conception is a stage where you start looking at the different properties of the things, and on the basis of those properties a concept emerges in your mind. Suppose somebody show you a kid a flower, and the kid would look at the different aspects of the flower, the petal, the sepals, and once you tell him or her that this is a flower, this would uh, be the first concept in the mind of that kid, which is called as schema. So next time if you have another flower which is not maybe rose or some other flower, so the kid would try to see that the properties of the things, and then looking at the properties he would fit it to his schema and would name you that this is a flower. In the later part, the kid, as he or she gets more exposure to the word, he start branding those things. Initially he was saying flower to every flower, but with the passage of time he started discriminating between rose and lily and jasmine, etc. So dear students, here we come to the real point or actual point, and that is that our concept correspond to the properties or characteristics of the things and not of the object. What does it mean? In order to understand it, you got to divide it into two parts. That we write down the representation we perceive in our head through symbols. So these are of two types: attributes and properties. If in a room there are 20 girls, being female is their attribute which is not changing. But they all have different properties which are changing: their height, weight, their hair color, their skin color. They are all called as properties. Properties are actually of two types: directly observable and indirectly observable. Directly observable, those things or qualities we can observe directly, like color, shape, height, weight, and we can easily measure those things as well. But there are certain things which are indirectly observable, and those indirectly observable things, they cannot be measured directly. Now let's see, like attitude, aptitude, behavior, personality, intelligence, motivations, all those concepts are indirectly observable, because like height, weight, you cannot measure them through machine. You got to use some tool which indirectly measures the personality. All the personality test actually indirectly measures what is the personality. But there is a problem here, because in most of the directly observable phenomena, you have well defined system, weight machine or height measuring machines. They measure it to a very great accuracy, and uh, 10 weight machines from 10 companies would weight a person 70 if it is 70. But two or three different personality inventory developed by different universities or groups would not give most probably the same result. Rather, there would be a fluctuation in the result. Let's see the distinction between concepts, variable, and constructs. Concepts are empirical abstraction to classify natural phenomena, whereas constructs, you know, some of the concepts are observable, which I told you earlier, that directly observable phenomena, and they can easily be distinguished from others. But there are certain other concepts which are less tangible or non-tangible and can be defined by inference, like intelligence. You cannot directly observe it, you infer that this could be intelligence. So constructs are invented names for abstract variables that cannot be measured directly, but by measuring relevant correlated behavior or observable. You identify certain behavioral patterns, and if you say if these patterns are found, this the personality would be categorized like this. So constructs are concepts But you can say concepts have two types. One which is tangible, can be directly observable, but the other one which is non-tangible and which can be uh, abstract, or they cannot be directly measured, or they can be measured through explaining the latent variable in them. Now let's say a very important thing here: concept, construct, and variables. A construct is a concept which we have already explored, but a construct is hypothetical attribute or entity or mechanism that actually help explain and predict behavior in a theory. Although constructs are hypothetical and intangible, yet they play very important roles in behavioral theories. Explanations require development of a concept or generalizable properties, or characteristics associated with objects, events, or people. So you can say a construct is an abstract concept which can be hypothetically described, and when research is conducted on it, evidence comes. As a matter of fact, they lead to a particular theory. Some of the constructs are unidimensional and some are multidimensional. The distinction between construct and concepts are clearer in multidimensional constructs, where the higher order abstraction is called a construct, like intelligence, personality. It is a higher order abstraction, and there would be a hell of subjectivity in it. Everybody would be describing it in a different way. So, where there is a lower abstraction, you call it a concept. Where there is a high abstraction, you call it a construct. This picture will clarify in your mind the difference between theoretical and empirical plans of the research. Theoretically, you have construct A and construct B, and you propose that there may be a relationship between construct A and construct B, or maybe construct A affects construct B. But when you go for empirical plan in research, you got to tell which one of them is independent variable. I mean, if we bring certain changes in independent variable, will it affect the dependent variable? For that purpose, you got to develop a hypothesis. So on a theoretical plan, you go for proposition, and for empirical plan, you go for hypothesis. So here we come to the clear distinction between proposition and hypothesis. A proposition is a tentative and conjectural relationship between construct that is stated in a declarative form. As proposition are associations between abstract constructs, they cannot be tested directly. Instead, they are tested indirectly by examining the relationship between corresponding measures or variables of those constructs. The empirical formulation of proposition stated as relationship between variable is called as hypothesis. So a testable proposition, unlike theories, hypotheses are tested in research. In many qualitative researches, there is no specific hypothesis at the outset. This picture would tell you how a concept, which is actually a construct, free and fair judiciary, how it is operationalized. So suppose you say variables, your the construct of free and fair judiciary, you try to operationalize it through four phases. I mean, legitimacy, authority, neutrality, and uniformity. So, what do you mean by legitimacy? For that purpose, you would write your operational definition. Like you can see, legitimacy would mean, does the court have the legal authority to make decisions? Does the court have the support of the people it rules over? Similarly, for authority, you would have different operational definition. And when you will develop your questionnaire or interview protocol in quantitative research, all your question would spin around your operational definition. So let's talk about operational definition. Uh, I have already told you that there are directly observable phenomena and indirectly observable. All indirectly observable are called as constructs, whereas directly observable usually are termed as concept, though constructs are concept as well. But there is a clear distinction between them. Uh, Directly observable phenomena can be quite easily measured, like height. You can measure the height through weight machines, and if you get 10 companies making weight machines, if they all are on zero, suppose, while you are weighing something, so if a guy has a 70 kg weight, all 10 machines, if they are absolutely right, would show the 10 70 kgs. But so far as indirectly observable phenomena are concerned, they are not directly measured like height, weight, or skin color or eye color. They are indirectly measured. We usually say that typically a researcher identify a behavior or a cluster of behavior associated with construct. I mean, for suppose for intelligence, you would identify what are the factors that can lead you to say that if those things are present in a certain amount, a person can be called as intelligence. If that particular thing is on its peak, you would say highly intelligent or gifted, etc. So, an operational definition is a procedure for measuring and defining a construct. An operational definition specifies a measurement procedure for measuring an external observable behavior and uses the resulting measures as a definition of that hypothetical construct. So here is a difference between models and theories. Models are basically definitions of predicates, concepts or system. But theories are description, explanation and prediction. Theory contains three things. It describes the things, explains the phenomena and predicts. Uh, theories are also called sets of law-like assertion, but as a matter of fact, there are no laws in sciences, and theories are not absolute or permanent in social sciences. With the change in time, change in context, change in exposure, theories develop more. Models are trivially true or neither true nor false, but theories must be either true or false. A model's point is conceptual exploration, but in theory's point is to make claims about the world. Models assesses mathematically or conceptually untestable, but here theories are assessed empirically testable. In models you have assumptions, but here because of the evidence in theory you have assertions. When we talk about parsimony, we got to use Occam's razors, who used to believe that when you have two competing theories which make exactly the same prediction, the one that is simpler is better. So go and follow the one which is simpler. We can see that a theory has actually three components, whether it is positivist or interpretivist. The very first one is assumption, second concepts, and the third one statement and proposition. Statement and proposition are declaration actually about the relationship between concept and constructs. They are often causal, but may also be correlational or even declarative in nature. Statements and propositions may be simple or complex, but one thing you got to note that in interpretive assumption or qualitative research, theories usually are bounded with the data. I mean, presupposed assumptions are not made. So these three assumption, concept, and statement and proposition, uh, while conducting research in quantitative, you make it at the early stage. But while in qualitative research, they must be the end part of your theory building. Here is a chart that shows different definition by Pickett. You can say assumptions, they are conditions or structures needed to build a theory. Concept labeled regularities in the phenomena, definition, conversion and precisions, prescriptions necessary for the theory to work with clarity. Facts, confirmable record of phenomena, 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. Confirmed generalization, condensation and abstraction from a body of facts that have been tested or systematically observed. Then laws, models, but I would go to the last one, the framework and hypothesis. So hypothesis, they are actually testable statement derived from or representing various components of a theory. Dear students, here you can see the picture of the front page of the research book Social Science Research Principles, Methods and Practices by Anol Bhattacharjee. What I intend from you is to write an overview over this book. This is one of the fantastic book I have ever read on the subject of research. I mean, for your concept clarity, get over it and then do write an overview of the book that must be round about 7 to 10 pages. Thank you very much.